Let's begin with turning on our main power supply. After the electrical panels are powered on, you'll want to turn on your control circuit. The computer will automatically boot up and the HMI program will automatically start. We'll just give her a second. So the HMI screen will pop up by itself. You don't have to worry about physically clicking it or anything like that. So this is our main screen. Notice that the power is off. It says press start button to continue, but also notice that our safety system e-stop is tripped. So we'll just reset that. We're okay now. We can hit our start button and that'll bring the power to the machine. So now we're ready to start home sequence. All the heads are good. They're nice and home. Ready. Safety curtain is good. So we're just gonna hit the home button. And the machine is now ready. Table's idle. All the heads are idle and ready. Safety system's okay. We're good to go. After the power's on, we'll want to load our hoppers with screws. After the screws are placed into the hopper, you'll want to come to your manual screen and just hit hopper cycle. Next step would be to grab your jamb stop and just insert it into the slot. So now that we have our jamb stop in, we'll place our jamb in the machine, slide it over to the stop, and we're gonna clamp up with the foot pedal, but please be mindful of your hand position as we have a vertical cylinder here and a horizontal cylinder here, and they will pinch you. So here we have our buttons. Control circuit will be the main power. Start machine, store program. With this store program, the off position will not save any changes made. It has to be on the on position. Start sequence to get the machine running, and an e-stop in case of any emergency. With the jamb now clamped up and the machine ready, heads are ready, and the safety system is okay, we want to make sure that we're in the right specs for our jamb. So we're at 2040 with an 89mm hinge with a 13 radius. So these are the hinges that we'll be using today. So we're going to take our hinges and place them into our 3-shooter. When placing the hinge in, you'll want to make sure it's within the butterflies and also be mindful to push down on it. Now that we have our jamb in place, all our hinges are in our 6-shooters, we can now run our jamb. So all you would want to do is hit start sequence and we'll get going. So now that the cycle is complete, we'll want to check our jamb for flushness, and we're looking good. So if you notice, this hinge is actually missing a screw. If your hopper is not empty, more than likely the screw will be stuck in your 6-shooter, and you'll want to just clear that out on the screen. If you think there's a screw stuck in your 6-shooter, you'll go to your manual screen and hit the clear screws. So if you want to run a hinge that isn't 89, you'll want to come to your preset if you want to do the 100. That will turn off your screw insert, meaning that it will disable your 6-shooter from coming down. and it also moves your pre-drill pattern to 100. So right now, we're in our 2040-89. If we want to move to our 2400 jamb, we'll want to click our preset, and that'll open up our heads. So in the case, if you want a square hinge cut, you'll want to just hit your preset, mark square. In this case, we're going to go with our 89 square. Notice that the change on the screen would be the radius. So when the radius is at 0, that'll activate the chisels. So if you notice on this cut, we have a little burr left over. We can easily take that out by recalibrating our chisels a little deeper on the Z-axis. To calibrate, I use a set of micrometers. I will measure our deepest point, which is our hinge cut. And then I will measure the side with the burr to see the difference. So we noticed we had a difference of 0.8 millimeters from our hinge cut to the burr left over from the chisel. So we'll just come into our calibration screen. Notice that there's an upper left chisel and a right chisel. In this case, we had an equal amount of burr left over, so we're gonna put in the same increments. We were putting a positive number in because that'll ensure that the bit goes in deeper. If we were to put a negative number, that would retract the bit further away. All right, so now that that's in there, we're ready to make our cut and see how we're looking. So notice our new cut is flush, and that's because we recalibrated in the computer. It's a servo-driven program, so they're very, very precise. So if you ever have a hinge overlapping your pocket, you'll want to adjust that with the hard stop bolt for the 6-shooter, which will be right over here. And if it's overlapping the top, you'll want to lower it. Okay, so let's take a general overlook on our buttons on our monitor. So we have our jamb lengths with our hinge sizes, jamb length, hinge size with the square, meaning the chisels will activate. We have our jamb lengths here, screw insert, which will turn the 6-shooters on or off. Hinge 2, which will disable the second head and shooter. Our pre-drill patterns down here, our hinge specs here, the speed of the routers here. We also have our auto unclamp and our jamb kick out here. In the manual screen, we can manually move our heads here. X-axis would be side to side, Y-axis would be up and down, and the Z would be the depth. We can skip any head we want. So for example, if you did not want to run head 2, you would just skip it like that. Auto unclamp and jamb kick out are also on the manual screen. You can also rerun the screws. In this case, if you were missing screws on your hinges, you can just rerun them. Cycle the hoppers after loading with screws, clearing screws with any jamb. You can also turn off the shooters on here, and you can also manually air inject, meaning push any screws that might be caught in the lines or maybe just didn't make it to its home. You can just push the air injection and that'll give it a little push out. We have our calibration screen. So we have hinge 1, 2, 3, and pre-drill. So with these, the router, counter router, pre-drill, chisel, and the chisel all work individually. So the X would be side to side, the Y is up and down, and the Z is the depth. So if these were all uniform and you wanted to move them all together, you would use your hinge carriage, and that would move everything as one unit. To set your pre-drill patterns, you want to go to this screen. You'll mic out your pre-drill holes, and then you will enter them into here. So if you want to make a preset, you would go to Modify. You would click whichever box is available. Put in your title you would like it saved under. And it's right there. So notice that there are emergency stops around the machine. If one is activated, it'll trip the screen, and if you click the button, it'll actually show you the location of the e-stop that's triggered. Here we have our banner light bar. What that does is ensures that if the machine is on and it were to be broken, the machine would stop so the person would be out of harm's way. So in this screen, notice that the light bars are illuminating red. That means there is something obstructing your light bar. In this particular case, it's myself, and if I move out of the way, it will turn off. To reset the system, you can either hit reset on this screen or you can hit it on the main screen. And notice that the safety system is okay now. So back to the home screen. If you wanted to reset the machine, you would just simply click reset. Or if it was the end of the day and you're ready to go home, you can simply shut down the machine with this button and you'll be good to go.